Hello everyone, welcome to our channel, and today we are continuing the series of a mind map for polity from the book M. Lakshmikant, and the topic which we are going to discuss is a silent feature of a Indian Constitution part 2. The part 1 video are already being uploaded, and regarding the first lesson the video is also uploaded, so I will provide the link in the description so you can refer the link and cover that lessons. Okay, and next one is a silent feature of Indian Constitution section 2, and regarding this series we are going to cover the entire polity part from the book M. Lakshmi Kant, and later we are going to start the history section, okay, in the form of a mind map, so that you can revise it very quickly just the day before exam, and it will be very beneficial for you. So please do like, comment and subscribe our channel and keep watching our videos, and let's start. In the last lecture we have already discussed about the silent feature, and the topic which we have covered are the lengthiest constitution, that is Indian Constitution is a lengthiest constitution, and what are the factors responsible for it. The next one is Indian Constitution is drawn from the various sources, what were the sources and from where the Indian Constitution features are being borrowed, and why the Indian Constitution is different from the other constitution are also been discussed in the previous part. And next one is Indian Constitution is a rigid and a flexible, okay, why it is flexible and what why it is considered to be the rigid, these factors are also being discussed. Regarding the federal system and its unitary bias and the parliamentary form of a government are also been discussed in the last lecture, and now today we are going to discuss what are the remaining features of the Indian Constitution, starting with the first feature, that is integrity and the integrated and independent judiciary. Okay, another significance it is of Indian Constitution which include the provision of a judicial review. Okay, it include the provision of a judicial review. This means that a Supreme Court of India is empowered to declare a law passed by a Indian Parliament as a null and void if it is inconsistent with the fundamental right. Okay, if any law in the Parliament found inconsistent with the fundamental right, or it can found that if it altered the basic structure of Indian Constitution, then Supreme Court has a right to nullify or make that law as a void. In this way it can say that Indian Constitution has an independent judiciary. And why then it is called as a integrated judiciary? The meaning integrated judiciary because at the top there is a Supreme Court, okay, that at the top there is a Supreme Court, then there is a High Court, and there are later the subordinate court. It means that the judiciary system is integrated because they follow a same law pattern. Okay, in this way we can say that Indian Constitution is integrated and a independent judiciary. In the case of act passed by the state legislature, this power is vested with the concern of a High Court. Okay, in case of a state legislature, the power is for the High Court, and in case of a parliament, that is a central legislature, there the parliament or the higher authorities related cases are given to the Supreme Courts. In this way we can get to know that India has a integrated and a independent judiciary. The next one is a fundamental right. As you know that Indian Constitution has guaranteed us a 6 fundamental right to the every citizen. Okay, and these fundamental right are justiciable in the nature, that is if you found that any of the fundamental right has been violated, then you can move it to the court, and you can also run the case regarding that because it is justiciable in the nature. Okay, and regarding the fundamental right we have also provision to file a writs. Okay, what are the writs we are also going to discuss in detail the lesson of a fundamental right. There I will explain the writs, what are the writs, that is habeas corpus or mandamus, okay, or currento. There are various type of writs, and what are the writs and what are the detailed explanation I will explain it in the next lesson. Okay, regarding the fundamental rights, what are the 6 fundamental rights that are enlisted in the third part of our constitution, that are right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of a religion, cultural and education right, and right to the constitutional remedies. These are the fundamental right given by our constitution. The next one is a fundamental duties. Okay, the another salient feature of Indian Constitution is a fundamental duties, and according to the 42 Amendment of 1976. This fundamental duties were added in our constitution, and it was added in the form of a article 51A. Okay, article 51A in the constitution deals with the fundamental duties. Constitution required all citizens to fulfill the 10 duties. Okay, there are the 10 duties, and failure of these duties does not carry any penalty, yet the citizen are expected to follow them. Okay, if doesn't follow by any citizen, okay, if the fundamental duties are not followed by the any citizen, even though they are not carry any type of a penalty, but it is expected that every citizen should follow this. Some of the example I will say that: to abide by the constitution and respect its ideals and institution, the national flag and the national anthem. This is one of our fundamental duties. Regarding fundamental duties, the entire lesson I am going to cover, so stay connected. Okay, the next one is a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. This is a one of the major feature of our Indian constitution. Okay, and the Indian constitution declare India as a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. The word socialist and the secular was initially not in the preamble, and it was added in the 42 Amendment 1976. And I have already discussed that the 42 Amendment is also known as a mini constitution, because many provisions were added in this amendment. Okay, then what do you mean by sovereign? Okay, sovereign, it means absolute independent. It does not under the control of any other state. As you know that before 1947 India was under the British government. At that time we can say that it was not a sovereign, but after 1947, when we got a complete independence, at that time we were not under the control of any state, so we can say that we got a that our country is a sovereign country. The next one is a socialist. Then what do you mean by socialist? It implies a statement which will endorse to avoid concentration of wealth in a few hands and will assure it equitable distribution. That is, socialist means there should be a equitable distribution. It doesn't mean that all the wealth or all some special privilege to the particular section of society, but there should be a equal distribution. Okay, and it also implies that India is against the exploitation in all the forms and believe in the economic justice and to the all the citizen. Next one is a secular. Okay, India is a country of a several religion. As you know that India is a country of a several religion, and each and every individual belongs to the various religion, but it doesn't mean that our India is follow favor of a one particular religion. It doesn't make India a secular country. It means that India is a secular because even though there are various religion, and Indian constitution make or accept that every religion should be respected and there should be no discrimination on the basis of the religion. Okay, this means that secular. And next one is democratic, means the power of a government is vested in the hand of a people exercise their power through the elected representative who is in the run and responsible to them. All the citizens enjoy equal political right. Democratic means the power of a government, okay, is vested in the hand of a people, and as you know that we elected the representative, and the representative that we are elected runs the government. It means that indirectly the people runs the government. In this way we can say that Indian constitution guarantees us the feature of a democratic. Next one is a republic means the state doesn't have any hereditary monarchy, but the president who is indirectly elected by the people for a definite period. Okay, the republic means we have do not follow or do not have any particular hereditary monarchy. Okay, but we are selected particular representative, and we select the we indirectly elect the president. Okay, and he is have a particular definite period, and this conclude that we have the feature of a republic. In this way we are sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. Next one is a universal adult franchise. This is one of the main and major feature of our Indian constitution, and this feature is mentioned in the article 326 of our Indian constitution, which give us the power of a voting, that every person above the age of 18 or who has completed the age of 18 year in respective of his caste, creed, gender, sex, religion, he is able to vote in the election process. And the election age is come down from 21 to 18, and this is most of the revolutionary aspect in our Indian constitution. Okay, the next feature is a directive principle of a state policy, that is DPSP. Okay, the constitution has a various directive principle of a state policy which are mentioned in the part 4 of our constitution, and it is intended that it should be implemented by both center and the state government in the period of a time. Okay, and main aim of this directive principle of state policy, that is DPSP, is to make India or to transform India in a welfare state. I'm also going to discuss the entire directive state policy, that is DPSP, in the upcoming lectures. Here I'm just giving a overview what are the main features of our Indian constitution. Okay, and some of the example of a directive principle, such as there should not be a concentration of a wealth and means of a production to detriment of a common man. It is one of our directive principle, and directive principle is intended to be implemented by state as well as a center government. The next feature is a single citizenship. As you know that India, even though has a federal system, that is dual polity including the center and the state government, but India provides us a single citizenship. Okay, there is no state citizenship. We have only one citizenship, that is a Indian. Okay, and this shows that there is a unity in a diversity. We can also say that every Indian is a citizen of India and enjoy the same right of a citizenship no matter in what state he resides. The next one is the emergency provision. The emergency provision in our constitution mention the three type of emergency, that is national emergency including the included in the article 352, state emergency article 354, and financial emergency article 360. And these emergency provisions are initiated by the president. Okay, the next one is the main feature, that is independent body. Indian constitution not only provide for the legislation, executive and judiciary organ of a government, but also establish a certain independent bodies. Okay, Indian constitution along with the judiciary, executive and the legislature form of a government, it also established some of the independent body. And what are the independent bodies? Some of the examples such as the election commission, CAC, that is controller and audit general, UPSC, okay, and CPSC. In this form of a various independent government are also various independent bodies are also the main salient feature of our Indian constitution. The next one is a three-tier government. Okay, according to the amendment in year 1992, that is 73 amendment and 74 amendment added the three-tier form of a government. Okay, three-tier, it means according to the 73rd amendment, the Panchayati rule local government, Panchayati Raj, okay, Panchayati Raj institution was added in the 73rd amendment. We can say that it is a rural local government. And according to the 74th constitutional amendment, municipalities also got a constitutional status, and we can say that it is a urban local government. In this way, we have a three-tier of a government. In this way, we conclude all the form of okay, there is a one feature, that is a cooperative society. Okay, in according to the 197 amendment act of 2011 gave the constitutional status and protect to the cooperative society. Okay, and this state that the cooperative society had also been got a constitutional status by 97 amendment act 2011, and it is mentioned in a 9th B part of our Indian constitution. In this way, we have completed all the salient feature of our Indian constitution. If you are new in our channel, please do like, comment and subscribe. Stay connected for the new update. Thank you.